Welcome. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and we are thrilled that you have tuned us in and welcomed us into your home. We want you to email us, jimandjoy@ewtn.com. We could use your questions right here on the air or your comments. Today we have a beautiful show,
Yes,
really beautiful. We have Sister Joseph Andrew Bogdanowicz, who is the foundress, music director of the Dominican Sisters of Mary, and her partner today is Sister John Michael Wynne, who is the singer also, and she is an instrumentalist of Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. You are going to hear music today. You're going to be brought into heaven. It's just so beautiful. You can go to their wonderful website. It's called sistersofmary.org. And they have a fabulous video up there that we have shared with our staff and with our family. It is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
You know, we were sharing last show, or maybe the show before, just about coming up on Advent, time of preparation for the coming of the Lord, thinking about Christmas, looking at some of the stuff, even in the arts, that the secular world and culture, offers. And it's just, some of it's really horrendous and really anti-Christmas. And, I just kind of looking at that and saying, well, I guess we're not going to hear about Jesus. We're not going to hear the story of the incarnation and nativity of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And, oh, how much more the church should do in the arts. And these Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, Ann Arbor, Michigan, have such a gift in this area of music and the arts. And they've cut this CD, a Christmas CD, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. And when I went to the video, there's a 4-minute video that you really need to get. As soon as I was watching that, but not just watching, just hearing the music that was coming forth from it, I mean, immediately I felt like I wanted to cry, and why did I want to cry? It just went right in, and art has the way of doing that versus didactic teaching and preaching. So beautiful things go right in, so do ugly things, because the arts are that way. It bypasses kind of, your thinking and just kind of boom. Well, it touched me, just to hear these classic carols and classic Christmas hymns, and it was just like, I think I was so moved because it was so beautiful, and because I was saying, this is my faith. This is what I'm trying to say. This is what the world needs, to hear. And if you try to go to the world or to the media and say, don't you know Christmas is about Jesus Christ, the eternal Word of God made flesh, who dwelt among us, God with skin, God made poor, God with a face, who gave his life that he was born of the Blessed Virgin. I mean, they wouldn't want to hear a sound, from you. But let these sisters sing. Let them sing traditional Christian hymns. And some songs they've made themselves. And I don't know why they're able to do it, but they get out there to the whole, secular world. They're #1 on the classic, charts of music right now. And you listen to these hymns, to these carols, to what they've written, and they are declaring the gospel of Jesus Christ to the world. John Paul, in his letter to artists, said, the church needs the arts. We need the arts because God's an incarnational God. We need music and film and artwork, to help us understand the Lord. And the question is, does the world need the church? Does the world need the church's art and music? It does. And the Dominican sisters are getting the gospel of Christ out there through the arts.
And it's really an opportunity it's like to change the channel. Because like you said, what the world has to offer, it's kind of like, is that all there is? Is that all you got
they don't know.
in music? And I don't even, right now they're playing Christmas music on some of the secular radio stations, and you're just like, what? You don't even want to hear it yet. And it seems like right after Thanksgiving, but now they're doing it even before Thanksgiving. And so this is a way for you to have the CD in your car, in your home, as you're baking, as you're preparing, even at your work, so that you would be enriched, that you would be enlightened, that you would be lifted up to everything that is good and holy and true, and be focused. And we all need to be reset on that.
Well, as we go to a break, you can enjoy a little bit of We Wish You a Merry Christmas. So just kind of, and that's a pretty cultural kind of Christmas song. But when you hear the voices of these sisters, it comes across in a very special way. And so it's their new CD entitled Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, and we'll be back in just a bit.
We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin, good tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. So bring us a figgy pudding, so bring us a figgy pudding, so bring us a figgy pudding and a cup of good cheer. We won't
Welcome back. Well, you're an important part of our EWTN family, and we would love to hear from you. So today, if you have a question for our beautiful Dominican Sisters of Mary, we want you to give us a jingle at 1-800-221-9460. If you're calling and you're outside North America, you can reach us at area code 205-271-2980, and you can always send us an email, jimandjoy@ewtn.com, and hopefully we will use your question or your comment right here on the air. Well, listening to those sisters sing is like listening to the angels singing in heaven. And it does, it sets you, it anchors you. It's like, yes, that's who I am. That's who my Lord is. And that song that you just heard was that of the Father's begotten, right?
Yeah.
So beautiful. And but before we speak with these beautiful sisters, we're going to go straight to Washington to hear from Catherine Zeltner of Pro-Life Weekly. Catherine, what do you have for us?
Hello from Washington, D.C., Jim and Joy. This week, not too far from here in Baltimore, the U.S. bishops gathered for their General Assembly, and Cardinal Timothy Dolan spoke about the importance of the Conscience Protection Act. If passed, it would protect the conscience rights of healthcare professionals and others. It's crucial. And this week, we are asking viewers to take action. Here is how you can do that. Go to prolifeweekly.com and tell Senator Mitch McConnell to include the Conscience Protection Act in the upcoming appropriations bill. All it takes is typing in your information and clicking Add My Name. If you tune into EWTN Pro-Life Weekly tonight, you'll also see an exclusive interview with Representative Karen Handel, the pro-life and Catholic congresswoman who beat out the Planned Parenthood-backed candidate in a special election earlier this year. We have that and much, much more on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly tonight, Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern, and again on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Now, back to you at home.
Thank you, Catherine, and be sure to watch Pro-Life Weekly. Catherine does a great job. Well, it is my pleasure and my sheer privilege to bring to you Sister Joseph Andrew Bogdanowicz, foundress, music director, Dominican Sisters of Mary, and her beautiful sister partner, Sister John Michael Wynne, who is a singer, and also she's an instrumentalist, very involved in the Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. You can get that CD at EWTNRC.com. Go to their website, sistersofmary.org. Watch their video. They have a beautiful little clip on there, and you feel like you get taken into something. It's so, so beautiful.
And, you know, if you just search on your browser and put in Dominican Sisters of Mary, even add Mother of the Eucharist,
right,
or
true.
Just New Christmas,
Yes.
It'll take you to so many places to get it.
That's true.
And you've got that beautiful video. There's like a 3 or 4 minute video that I'm mentioning, and that will pop up all over the place. If you would just watch that video, you will be so moved. And it's a lot of fun. You got a lot of the sisters skating around and everything else. But then on most of those things, you could just kind of click the little arrow, and I sent it to a number of my family members and so on. And they get it and they watch it, and it's really wonderful.
It's beautiful. Well, but first, tell us a little bit about your home life, where you lovely ladies were born and raised, and then tell our family when you knew that you had a call and how you entered in and what God has done in your life.
Sure, thank you, Joy. Actually, I would credit certainly my religious vocation in largest measure to my parents. And I was born in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, so the Atomic City. And I was blessed by my father's 100% Polish Catholic, so he's very strong in the faith, and my mother is a convert from the Southern Baptist. So she had a lot of learning to do, but was very intrigued and loved it, and brought a great deal of energy to our family. And we would pray together, and we were brought up in a beautiful Catholic family, and I was blessed to be taught by Dominican sisters. And so I really kind of think God spoiled me at an early age, and I would really have to say he knew what he was doing with my personality. There's no telling what I might have done had he not kind of let me know early that really I just wanted to be a sister. I wanted the habit. I wanted the 15-decade rosary. I just loved everything about it. I have a sister who's 2 years older than I am, and she too is a Dominican Sister of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist. And I have a brother who's several years younger, so my brother Michael. So it was just a beautiful family, and hard times in many ways to grow up, as I think every age has challenges. But we were brought up in such a way that you loved your Catholic faith. You loved God. You loved your life, and you knew how blessed you were, you know, to have this gift. And so when I graduated from high school at 17, I entered the convent. And I've always been so grateful that that much of my total life, so to speak, I'm able to give to God. Yeah.
The phrase that's coming to mind was, you are an intentional Catholic.
Yes, I think,
you know,
definitely.
it wasn't just kind of like you just kind of came around. Your family,
Yes.
and that's a beautiful thing. We need more
Yes, it is.
intentional,
It's my family.
joyful Catholics to say this is a
Yes.
beautiful way.
Well, in the state of Tennessee, what percentage of it is Catholic?
Less than 2%.
So you had to be
I
intentional.
loved that because we would wear our medals, you know, our religious medals, and we would dangle them, you know, around our Protestant friends. We had the whole neighborhood would come, and we would be playing, and we would and they go, "What's that?" And we go, "Well, that's our medals. You see, we're Catholic. We have this miraculous medal." We were little evangelizers all along. I know we thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really do think that really planted the seeds of evangelization, the desire for evangelization, to give to others the blessings I have received. And I love that, and most people want them in whatever degree they're able to accept, and that's between them and God. But if we're out there proclaiming it and loving it with great joy, I love your name, then others will follow. You know, they'll want that, as you also have said.
Well, Sister John Michael, tell us about you.
Well, like Sister, I'd have to credit my parents, obviously, with, I think, the roots of my vocation. Started there. I'm one of 6 children and was born and raised outside of Kansas City. And so, to be honest, I would call ourselves a pretty typical Catholic family. Like, we would go to Mass every Sunday. We'd pray the family rosary every once in a while. But it wasn't until, long story short, it was my confirmation retreat. When I was a sophomore in high school, I went on this retreat, had a very profound experience there, and kind of came home from that retreat with this idea of, well, maybe I'm called to a religious vocation. Up to that point, I had been thinking more of where I was going to go to college, what my career was going to be, but something on that retreat, I think was the grace of God, just really was like, well, that's your plan, but what's my plan for you? So that idea terrified me. I knew several communities of sisters in my home diocese, but I'd never felt called strongly one way or the other to them. But, you know, the idea wouldn't go away. And it just became stronger and stronger. And eventually I started desiring it. It was like I was able to work through my own fear and uncertainty of what on earth does this mean. And over, you know, my junior, senior years of high school, I resolved to pray a rosary every day in order to know and discern my vocation, what it was. So finally, by the time I was a junior, I knew, and I just said yes, and came and visited our community as a junior in high school and met with Sister and just saw our community so full of joy and, you know, the love of God. So I came back home and I knew this was the community for me. So after high school at 18 years old, I entered.
Beautiful. Now, had you had religious in your family before?
My great uncle is a Holy Cross brother.
Okay.
But other than that, no, I'm the first one for a while.
How did your parents take to it all?
Oh my goodness, they have been so supportive. I didn't tell them at first when I came home from the retreat. But eventually I kind of broke the news to them, and they could not have been more just generous and supportive. They actually paid for me my plane tickets to come on the first retreat, and since then they view all of our sisters as their children, really. So
You know, your story is so beautiful, and it's one that should be a part of every story, in that confirmation aspect. Okay?
Yes,
We
I
sometimes joke, oh yeah, confirmation is the time where you leave the church.
like
which
your
is
ticket
the
out.
direct opposite.
I graduated. I'm done.
It's your time to truly confirm what was said for you by your parents and godparents,
Yes.
that I say yes to Jesus as my Savior and Lord, and no to Satan and his minions, and I give myself to his. I mean, you experience a radical conversion, which should happen at confirmation.
Yes.
You confirmed this, and God confirmed you, and that call. I just want to underline that for everybody, because as our children come up to confirmation,
Right.
I can remember asking, one person in particular in the families who was about ready to make confirmation, and I said, "Do you understand what this is all about?" He had been to classes and everything. You sounds like you did well with the retreat and so on, but he was really unclear. And go through it a step at a time, and this is what it's really about. We can even pray about this now. I can't do what your priest or bishop's going to do for you, but do you understand what you're about to do? We have young people to come to our center, our pregnancy medical center, before they make confirmation. Some of the churches send them to us. So we speak about chastity
Being
and about
pro-life.
modesty.
Wonderful.
I meet with the boys, and Joy meets with the girls, and I say to these guys, you weren't asked to become Christian or Catholic. That was done for you by your parents and godparents and so on. Do you know that you don't have to be confirmed? You can say no. Do you really want to be Catholic? Because this is what being Catholic is all about. And they love the challenge, the guys. And they say, well, so we need that. Just wanted to underline
That's
that.
beautiful.
Well, tell us about your community. So what are these beautiful women coming to, and what happens there?
Well, 4 of us founded our community 20 years ago this year, so the CD was an initiative in gratitude also for our 20 years, and also in response to many, many requests that we've gotten through the 20 years for a Christmas CD. But 4 of us founded the community 20 years ago. Today we have 138 sisters, and the average age is 31 years old.
So within 20 years period, 4, you said?
Yes.
Okay,
From
and
4
now
to
almost
130?
138 right now, so 134 have entered, and they come from everywhere. I was thinking, a sister and I were giving our vocation stories, basically, that we are quite atypical in the sense of so many young women don't come from a very Catholic necessarily, or Catholic practicing family. God chooses who he wills. And so many don't have the blessings of their parents with them, and they really have to make the hard decisions. So there's a lot of heroism in young people today if it's pulled forth by our challenging it and walking it the way with them. So we have 138 right now. We teach in...
Average age is
31.
Wow.
We teach in 21 schools presently, pre-K all the way through college. We're also in Rome as librarians at the Pontifical North American colleges. And we just keep spreading out every single year. So every August 28th, Feast of St. Augustine, more young women enter the community, and they've been in the process for at least a year, if not sometimes 2 years or more. But then they become postulants, and then after that year, the postulants become novices, receive the religious habit with the white veil and their religious names, and then after 2 years of that, they make their first profession. But we have them from everywhere, and the youngest to enter would be 17, the oldest would be in the early 30s. So it's just exciting, the young women and the experiences and the talents and the
And what they bring into the
individualities, what they
community.
bring. Yeah, I'm like, God, we must be needing this at some point in time, because
Yes.
look at this unique gift.
Like, is it a prerequisite that you can sing, It's like, but God brings all these voices.
Yes, that's true. We have very musical sisters.
it's a great sign of hope.
Yes, it is.
Because, and this is, I'm so glad for EWTN, because people can hear this, because you hear about this dearth of vocations or something, but then you hear, your story, and then you wonder, Lord, is there something prophetic about this? Only he would know, like, why now and what's coming, or what?
I think so, and that would be something Mother Angelica would read as, what are we getting ready for, that God is sending so many young women. I think as you mentioned Jim, the world just doesn't get it because we are so countercultural. But that's also so exciting to be able to say to the world, then wake up and get it, because it's yours also. You know, God offers the graces to everyone in their own vocations, and live them to the full.
Now tell us what a typical day looks like for you all.
Well, a typical day, the bell rings at 5 o'clock, so we are up at 5. By 5:30, we are in the chapel for an hour of Eucharistic adoration. So that begins our day. And with that, we also pray the first of our divine office hours. So we pray lauds or morning prayer. And then we also have meditation during that time. And then we have Mass. And then after that, we have a very quick breakfast because the sisters have to get out to the schools, those that teach, and the novitiate sisters who are at home, they have classes they need to get to, and they have duties, and they have a lot of things that they're learning. What does it really mean to be a Dominican Sister of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist? So they're learning. So everyone is kind of shot out of the can, and early on at about 7:15, we're scattered out. Then those at home, we have daytime prayers, so we have various hours of the office. Those at school, they come home at about 4 o'clock, 4:30, and then they just have some downtime together, drinking coffee and just enjoying family time.
Decompressing from the day.
Decompressing.
Yes.
Then at 5, we have Vespers, and after Vespers, we also have the Rosary. And then we have dinner, and then we have a great hour of what we call recreation, just family time, just to get together and talk. We play games every once in a while. We'll see something from EWTN. We'll watch, some really good programs. We also challenge each other intellectually. That's part of the Dominican charism of truth, that we love to challenge each other. So we'll have these good conversations. It's just fun, and it's so balanced. And the night prayer is at 7:30 with spiritual reading. That's Compline. We have a procession to the Blessed Mother's altar carrying candles. And it's silence.
But we need to get into the CD and the Christmas album that they've done. But I think we're going to take a break at this point.
When we went to the break last time, you heard the sisters singing Emmanuel. And you need to get the CD for yourself and give it as Christmas gifts to your friends and family. We're going to take a break now, and we want you to listen to the sisters singing Of the Father's Love Begotten. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back. Well, remember that we want you to be a part of our show. So if you have a question for these beautiful singing sisters, Sister Joseph Andrew and Sister John Michael, give us a jingle during the live broadcast at 1-800-221-9460. If you're calling and you're outside North America, you can reach us at area code 205-271-2980. And you can always send us an email, jimandjoy@ewtn.com. Well,
let's jump on in to the CD, because time's moving. And Sister John Michael, just share with us, there's a wide array of songs here, one going back to the 5th century and on.
Yes, and some as recent as, 4 or 5 years ago. So we have
4 or 5 years ago, because you did your own songs?
Yes, okay. One of our songs is original
as
well. But yeah, two actually. Yeah, you're right. But no, everything from like more chant-like songs to kind of the more traditional that you might have grown up with, like Silent Night or Angels We Have Heard on High, We Wish You a Merry Christmas, but really just kind of I would say a great variety of not only time, like the time frame, but also the nationalities of where these songs are coming from.
Right.
So.
It's interesting, the CD begins not so much with a song as a chant, possibly. You could chant it or just say it, because it's the Christmas Proclamation, which I was a lapsed Catholic and then came back to the Catholic Church, and I can remember the first Christmas because that is said, especially at the Christmas Eve service where we go.
Yes.
They say that or chant that. Share a little bit about that and the content of it. You don't have to go through all of it, but just what are we saying in the Christmas Proclamation? What's the church doing by saying that or chanting that? Why did you select that first?
Well, actually, it's a little summation of the the years of the church waiting for the birth of the Messiah. So it comes from the Latin, which means basically the calendar. And the tradition was that the church would sing this Christmas proclamation going back through the Old Testament, waiting, longing for the Messiah, and then ending up, of course, with the moment of, Christ and kind of going through the liturgical year to a certain extent. And that was very popular. And then at a certain point, it fell out of use. And then it was in 1980 that Pope St. John Paul the Great brought it back.
Okay.
And so we use that, and many people will say, what a unique idea. I'm like, no, this is very old in the church's richness. But it is beautiful. And that's where we begin. Yes, exactly.
What's so powerful about it, I mean, when you come into church and then you're starting with that, because it's saying like in the 21st century, and then it mentioned Abraham, and then all these historic people, and you get the real sense, especially if you're not steeped in the faith, this isn't just about fluff, and you got a lot of people coming who are into fluff, and you're saying,
well, they're your Easter Christmas Catholics.
Exactly.
This is historic. This happened in history and in time. God has visited the earth. He's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and He's making history right now.
And this is where we date history. It's from
Date history.
the birth of Christ, everything before or after His birth. So.
And the fact that Christ had this same flesh, it always fascinates me. Or, when anyone celebrates Christmas, they're celebrating the fact that God loved us so much to come down from heaven and take on our humanity and live our life and walk, and redeem the world. But it's so hard for us to grasp that, which is why I think Christmas is essential. We have to become like little children at Christmas and dream of what heaven is like, because we know Christ actually came down as this little child in this man. You can't have enough Christmas music. You can't.
Right. And we so need to declare the message. I think we're growing up with generations who don't know that. Don't know the story at all.
I know.
They have no
You're
idea what this is
right.
about. I would bet some people can't even name who the baby is. And to explain this through song theologically and to share the gospel in that way is absolutely critical for our culture and for the saving of souls. Speak to us about Jesu, joy of man's desiring, the song itself or the recording of it, or...
Thank you for that question. We chose that name, first of all, because we love that particular hymn. And then secondly, because it really is, we say, in this 800th year of the Dominican order and the 20th year of our particular community in the Dominican order, it's very Dominican in the sense of the Dominican order has always been very incarnational. And so there is that aspect of the reality of life, which is so beautiful, and in that reality walks the Son of God with the same flesh. And as you go, you realize more and more He's grabbing all of our hearts, whether or not we know it or not. He is the only thing that will fulfill the deepest desires. And we know those deep desires, and so many people try to fulfill them in so many ways. So Jesu, joy of man's desiring, plus the fact that it goes back to one of our favorites, to the great composer Bach, who was a very religious man. And so it's his music and the words, and as you follow it through, you're led into a contemplative spirit of the eternity of God with the music just goes on and on. It's just so eternal.
Well, you know, you've heard the melody so many times. You know, I've heard it at weddings and so on. So but you know, I was not really familiar with the words, and so I looked up the words to that. And Jesu joy of man's desiring. As you were saying, man includes men and women. You know, there's this yearning, there's this desire, but we don't know where it's supposed to go. And it speaks about holy wisdom, love most bright. Drawn by thee, our souls aspiring, soar to uncreated light. Drawn, soaring, striving, dying, drinking. You know, and all this is, it's like, I'm saying, this is a love thing. This is an intimacy.
Yes.
So then Joy was saying, well, that's why it's used at weddings, because this is about the groom and the bride.
And then you don't even know the words
Perfect.
of it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, you just said it. It is. It's a
But that's
love
what
song.
hits you even when you don't know all the words. So when I heard it, or when people hear it, that starts happening. You don't even have to know all the words. It's like, because it's really, especially as you sing it, it's a prayer. You know, and it's touching people, and it's just kind of getting in there.
We have an email. It says, I really love your music. Are there future projects in the works? And this is Jan from Washington, D.C.
Well, thank you for the question. Only God knows. We didn't even ask for this one. As I said, so many people really did request it. We have 2 previous CDs, the Mater Eucharistiae, which was our very first, and that too is very popular.
Yes.
But again, these sisters, they're very gifted. And then the second is the Rosary Music Meditations and Mysteries. And so, and we thought, well, you know, that's great because it gets us into people's homes, and we want to do so much, and you can't, you know, you can't physically do it, but we can do it through this gift. Well, no, it wasn't enough. You have to do a Christmas. And I just, you know, I appreciate that because my favorite time of year is always going to be Christmas. You know, when everybody not only has the right to dream, but should dream, and just lift out of this mundane, you know, and just catch themselves on fire with love of God and the world He's created and the people He's given into our lives.
Well, you're going to bring that to,
So-
it's being brought to millions of people. You're at the top of the charts.
Yes.
And it's so evangelistic. It's the new evangelization,
yes,
and it's evangelization for those that haven't known the Lord. It's evangelization for them, for those of us who do, and we're kind of mediocre. You know, this lifts you up into beauty and into truth, and you just start connecting with God, and that's real trouble. I mean, that's real good trouble. You know, and so you're going to just touch so many people.
This is family, my image of this the whole time we were doing it is the family around the fireplace at Christmas, putting on the music and talking about Christmases past, or talking about the reality of Christmas and the babe in the manger, and how can our family come closer to Him? How can each one of these members of our family love Him more this Christmas? And just, you know, being bigger than we think ourselves to be, because God sees the infinity inside each of us, and we sometimes don't grasp that. And this music pulls us into a very contemplative, a deeper aspect of ourselves. That's
Well, you know, with everything that the world has to offer, you know, with all this commercialism, and you think, oh, if I just get that, that's going to fill my cup. Oh, no, if I just, that's going to fill my cup. And at the end of Christmas, everybody's cups are still empty, and they just have all this stuff. I mean, I've been there, done that. And now you have all this stuff. Because the real heart's desire, the real calling, and the real wanting of what we were made for was to connect with our Creator. You know, and to hear this beautiful music. I mean, I envision having it playing as I'm cooking and baking and cleaning and all the things that I do, and even at work.
You're starting to preach.
No, but it's so beautiful to have.
She's so right on.
That encounter, because the world is not going to give it to you. And this is our charge for the church. Only the church has the answer. And we as the church, we can't shrink back from the beauty that God has given us and the world is hungry for.
See, the thing they're doing, though, is that they're saying that message. They're not saying it, they're singing it. And there's a difference between saying it and people pushing back and singing it, and it just gets through. So it's really amazing. We got a caller, Carolyn, in Illinois. Your question or your comment?
Hello. Hi. I pray for vocations to the priesthood and the religious life daily at Mass. And I was wondering how many African American vocations, if any, that you have received, or considering?
Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Carolyn.
African Americans, we do have a number of girls. We were talking previous about our vocation discernment retreats. This past one, we had a number of African Americans really looking at the life and saying, what is God's plan for me? One actually has her application papers for this next year. And so where would they go if they believe they have a religious vocation? The same place any of us would, where God calls us, where we feel our spirit meets our spirit in a way that will pull all the good out of us and make us saints. That's the goal of life. So yes, definitely.
I want to underline your vocation retreats. So if anybody's interested in that, it's not just for their particular order.
Exactly.
It's for women to come and discern what is my vocation. Maybe it's marriage. Maybe it's a consecrated single life. And maybe it is a sisterhood, but it may not be with this order.
Exactly.
They're going to say, you know, your kind of spirituality and charism seems to be, maybe you want to look at these orders.
Maybe even Franciscan. I mean, you know.
Right. But that's an opportunity to go and discern, right?
Exactly. Right. And we really help them kind of pinpoint, because they don't know, and there's not a lot of places they could go to say,
and just explore
who am I and where do you see me? Yeah, the spirituality that God put there.
We have another caller. This is Fran. Fran, welcome to At Home with Jim and Joy. Your question or your comment for the beautiful sisters.
Oh, we're so grateful to the sisters. But my question is, do they have a vacation Bible school program for parishes?
That's a great question. We have throughout the summers, obviously our main apostolate is teaching, so we're in the Catholic schools across the country throughout the year. But every summer we'll send out, at least 30 or 40 sisters to go to various parishes all across the country for about a week or so to do those vacation Bible school. And it's a chance for us to really get to parishes that we're not at, throughout the year. But
yeah, we have friends who do that, and there's a group of sisters that come down from Nashville that, I believe it's like in Greenville, Alabama, they go,
we go
and they have a beautiful vacation Bible school with the sisters.
Let's look at some more of the songs, okay? So you've got Silent Night, and then there's this Polish lullaby that's in there. I was kind of like, Polish lullaby and Silent Night. And when I heard it, because it's like Silent Night, you can't mess with Silent Night. But then you get this Polish lullaby, and I said, I don't even know the words in that. I guess it was Polish.
Beautiful.
But I said, you know what, that sounds right. So tell us about that.
It's Silent Night has always been a personal favorite. It's just so compelling and so peaceful, and I love the fact that the organ, being an organist, that the organ went out, and what do you do? And this actually happened at our very first Christmas as a community, that our organ went out, and I ran to grab the guitar. So it was very, it was appropriate that we use Silent Night with the guitar. We also have the flute and the violin and the voices, and then it goes right into this beautiful Polish lullaby, which is Sleep Little Jesus. And our sisters love that, and we do sing that in Polish, and so the tones go right into it, and so it takes Silent Night up a few notches, which I know is hard to do, but it does it. And then it comes back to Silent Night, and then it gives the English words that the sisters wrote to the Polish lullaby, and then it comes back and ends with the Silent Night again. And you just feel so lifted out of yourself and so peaceful and just so happy. I love it. It's probably my favorite.
The CD's wonderful.
Said the Polish girl.
I know.
There's really predictable carols, and then classic music, and then something unpredictable, which is really beautiful and lovely, and it's the Polish lullaby in there. But then you have one, Snowflakes. Tell us about that.
Well,
Is that your own?
Snowflakes I actually wrote.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, it's just that little child at Christmas, and you're seeing the snow, and you're so aware that every single, we would love to run out and.
That's because you're from Tennessee.
That's true.
In Alabama, they love snowflakes.
But when the snow comes like on the black, either our mantles or our coats or our veils, each one is just so unique, and so the whole thought is in that uniqueness that God created each one of us, and that surely there must have been that same kind of magic, however it was, in Bethlehem. So it's kind of a lullaby, but it starts with a real crisp like snow's falling, like snowflakes falling from the heavens. You know,
Beautiful.
unique as each soul, the Creator desires, you know, perfection of eternity ultimately. So it's just, yeah.
It's wonderful.
Fun.
It's a real gift that we didn't have before you did it. Really, it's beautiful.
Well, we're going to take a break, and on our way to this beautiful break, you're going to hear a bit of the song Madonna's Lullaby. So stay with us.
Mary sings the ravished heavens, hushed the music of their spheres. Soft her voice, her beauty fair, and the unseen stars appear. While to Jesus now the angel Gabriel from heaven came. His wings as drifted snow, his eyes as flame. All hail, said he, our holy maiden Mary, most highly favored lady, Gloria.
Well, welcome back. Well, you're an important part of our EWTN family, and we would love for you to join us live right here on At Home. And you could be a member of our studio audience, and we would love to have you. All you need to do is contact the EWTN Pilgrimage Department. Maybe you're thinking in the coming year, I want to make my pilgrimage to EWTN. You need to just send them an email, pilgrimages@ewtn.com. Give them a jingle, 205-271-2966, and they can make all that happen for you. And that beautiful song that we heard, the song was Gabriel's message, and what an important message he had. Well, right now we're going to go straight to Rome to hear from Joan. Joan, what do you have for us today?
Well, greetings from Rome to all of you at home. And as you can well imagine, with my living here, I'm getting questions all the time about Vatican City State, what it's like, what can people see, what they can't see. So I think it's time for another Did You Know That segment. Now, did you know that Vatican City State is just that? It is a city and a state. Now, as a state, it's a small sovereign nation. The head of state, of course, is the Pope, the Holy Father. And by the way, I said small. It's 108.7 acres. And that, I am told by golfers, is the size of an average 18-hole golf course. Now, as a state, it has its own coins, it has its own stamps, and it does have its own passports, but they're used mainly for those in the diplomatic service of the Holy See. And I was privileged for several years to have one of those passports as I was a member of Vatican delegations. Now, as you can also see by its name, Vatican City State is that. It's a city. And like any small town or any large city, it has what they have. That is to say, it has a government, a police force, a fire department, pharmacy, gas station, grocery store, post office, of course, and a department store. It also has a number of churches, you might suspect, but it doesn't have schools as we think of in the typical sense of a school. There is a pre-seminary for young men considering a vocation. Now, what all of you probably know best, because you've been there, would be St. Peter's Basilica, the Scavi, the underground excavations, Vatican museums, and perhaps even the gardens. But the other services that I just mentioned, the post office and the various stores, these are available only to people with a Vatican-issued photo ID. So those people who work for the Vatican, who are retired, or some people even from embassies are given these privileges. Now, one of the privileges is that the prices are very favorable in the Vatican stores because there's no VAT, value-added tax, of 21% on the goods. So it's a very good place to shop, and as the saying goes, when the going gets tough, the tough go shopping at the Vatican. So that's it for today, but we'll see you again real soon.
Do something else. I love Joan.
Joan, thanks so much. You make the Vatican so at home for us all. Well, we only have several minutes left, and we want to hear from the both of you, just whatever's on your heart regarding your community or this upcoming Christmas or the CD. What's resonating with you?
I would just say that we are so really gifted by God to be able to make this CD and to raise the whole world up, you know, in virtue of hope, and to really remind us how much God really does love us. And so as so many people would like to come and visit us, but we don't have the extra room at the Mother House because of so many vocations, which is his great, great gift to us. So as our family is growing rapidly, and we can't really have other people come in, we're able to go out to them and to be in their families, in their settings, in their homes, in their families. And I know that all of our sisters, we take, because it really is our prayer that we recorded. And so they're able to hear our prayer in their own homes, and hopefully we all pray together.
Sister, you were sharing, kind of looking forward to Christmas, and that you're going to get to do all these songs, you know, on your own, not being recorded or whatever, because this is what you do. And I think that's so important. It's so wonderful. It lifts you up. It's so spiritual. It's so much the Lord. But it's also common. You do it common. So if people came into our home, they would see us pray. They would see, you know, us setting up for a meal. This is what we do. This is what you do. And so it only took like 2.5 days to film. Right. I figured it was, you know, to record. I figured it'd be so. We said, no, this is what we do all the time. We just have to set it up. This is what we are about.
Right. Yeah. And so did we rehearse? Yes. But really, we were just able to come, and because we do this so often, because, you know, those of us who sang on the CD, but just the community, because we sing together and we pray together so much, it was just able to come together really quickly. And I would just say, you know, enjoy it. We recorded this, you know, to be able to share our music and to help everyone kind of prepare for, you know, the coming of Christ at Christmas. So yeah, I was just really thankful to be part of this.
How many sisters participated in the singing and the instrumentals? Did everyone participate, or were they praying as this went down?
I don't want you to really answer this, but do you have some sisters we say, sister singing's not you? No, I don't know. Because to be my case, you'd be like, maybe we don't need to.
You're so nice, but
there's something else.
Thank you.
But go ahead, just go ahead.
We had a dozen. Okay. But then when someone would start playing the violin or the flute or whatever instrument, they would drop out of the singing, and others would take those parts. And they can interchange their parts. So if a part got a little bit weak, they would sense that and jump into another part. So they just kind of automatically do this. This is, yeah.
And the men who produced it were so taken.
They were wonderful. These gentlemen, they finally said at the very end, we did not know what we were coming in here to. Yeah. But now we realize we came in here because we were a part of your prayer, and that's what we taped, was your prayer.
Some of their commentary was just so beautiful. It wasn't salesmanship. They were like, once we heard this, this is really special. This is special, and you know, there's no ego in this. Exactly. Only you know for sure, but there's no ego in this. This is like so comprehensive and seamless. It's like silk.
Yeah, that's what he said.
You know, it's like silk.
Yeah.
And that's what God is. And somehow I could almost hear the individual voices, and yet it was all one. It's kind of like the Lord, where there's 3 persons in one God.
You know,
like you didn't lose your individuality.
Right.
You know, it was there,
beautiful.
But it was like all together.
Yeah, and it would have been incomplete if one hadn't been there. It was that group was meant from all eternity to produce this.
Well, and St. Augustine said, he who sings praise twice. So there was this beauty, you hear it, you sing it, you love it, you're like really being brought into it. And I just really encourage everyone to go to your website, because that little video where you're also alive and you're skating and you're having fun, and it's like, I want to be one of them. You know, it was so beautiful.
But that's so important. I mean, you have a depth, and there's that real joy and happiness that's in your life. And that's so important to our marriage and to marriages today, especially the attack that's on marriage, the attack that's on the church. But when people see genuinely happy people, content people in the Lord, then they're attracted to that. And I think that's why you're having, in part, so many vocations. And people say, that looks lovely. And hopefully we have marriages, and that's what we desire, where people say, I want that. And we do deal with a lot of people that are in relationships and so on, or they might call this one thing or another. And we have to say periodically, you know, that's not really a marriage. You know, you might be cohabitating, you might be together, there might be a degree of love there, but marriage is this covenant and this commitment and this sacrament in God. And I think that's a lot of what you're saying. You may have little parts of that or something, but come on in, the water's fine, you know? Don't be afraid to make this commitment. Don't be afraid to give your life away, because at the core of it, that's how you find your life by losing your life. And you can do that in a vocational call, to be a sister, to be a priest, a brother, or to be married, to be consecrated to the Lord. The whole deal is being wedded to the Lord as your groom, right? We're all supposed to be married. In one form or fashion, we're supposed to be married.
Yes, very much so. And that analogy is so important because it's a reality that people, the more they clue into it, the more they have the graces for their type of marriage by God's design. And I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both for your great yes. Thank you, because I don't know what the world would be like if we didn't have religious sisters and orders and priests. I mean, look at the state of the world, but thank God that you said yes and you pray for the world.
Thank you both for your yes. We need good marriages. God love you.
Thanks for being with us today. Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist. Be intentional about your Catholic faith. Get the CD. Get what we're offering through EWTN to make this Advent and Christmas the best of your life. Bye now.